Hello, Professor. I'm going to go over the Project 5, the final project for the class. So I'm going to go ahead and jump right into it. Meets requirements from all previous projects. So everything works how it should. The movement, camera, uh, the animations still work. Enemy can still shoot at me. I can still do pickups. The enemy can do pickups. The player health system still works. The live counters still work. Um, Enemy health AI still works. Stuff like that. So I'll go ahead and showcase this. So as you can see, I can still move. I can still shoot. The camera still follows me. I can do some pickups of weapons. Enemies still follow me. They can shoot at me. Stuff like that. I can shoot if I want. I take damage. I can die. Stuff like that. So there's effects for the character, lighting, so all that stuff still works as intended, and there's no issues with any of the code. As you can see, it's just debugs that say is fired, but I have no um, errors in the code. So that is that one. Settings menu allows for changing a resolution, windowed mode, graphical, stuff like that. So I will go ahead and showcase the code for this, and then I will launch the actual game that is built, showcasing the window mode, stuff like that. So I'm going to go ahead and show the code. So I have the variables here, so resolution drop down, um, quality, stuff like that, that can be showcased. So in my start function here, I have the screen resolution or resolutions variable equals screen resolutions. And then I have the drop-down.clear options where what this does, unless the player is like in the panel, none of these options will showcase clogging up the game CPU. And then I have a list here storing all of the options, or allowing all of the options of drop-down to be showcased. I also have it set to where to put it in index. Then I have a for loop here setting all of the options you can select in a loop for length. And then what this does is it will check to see the height of the screen and the width, and then it'll add all those options that you can do, so like 720 or 1980, stuff like that, to allow the player to select what screen they'd like. And then this will call that function and adjust it. And then down here it says it'll call the options and allow the add options function to call. It'll get the current resolution value in game and store it into a list. And then we'll also refresh the value and the screen size to fit the game. I have a set resolution function here where this lets you put the screen resolution into a list. And then if you don't check the full screen, it goes into windowed mode. So like if you don't want to go in that, you can go to windowed mode and adjust it from there. So that is the set resolution. My graphical function down here where it says set quality. What this does is it checks to see the quality settings, and then it'll do the quality level of the game, and then it'll put it into a index. And then just my full screen function down here will check to see if the player is in full screen. If not, go into windowed mode. So how the full screen works and the settings here, I'm going to go ahead and go into my canvas. I have a panel here for all of my drop downs. Um, oh, that's right, I'm in game mode. Um, so as you can see, I have the full screen boolean here that you can check. What this does is it will check to see if you're in full screen. If not, go into windowed mode. The quality drop down here where it has three buttons set, low, medium, and high. How this works is it checks to see in your project build settings or project settings if these match these ones. If so, then the game will adjust their variations based on this. So as you can see, I have low here for the first one, medium graphical settings set, and then just high for the highest settings you can go. And then what this drop down menu has here is like if you wanted to select low graphical settings or high, you can do that. The screen size drop down here, what this does is it will only start and showcase these variables once the game starts. And then what it'll do is to put every single resolution that you can get into the game, and then the player can just select whatever they would like. Um, so I will go ahead and showcase this in the build. So as you can see, it's in windowed mode right now, but if I pause, I can go to full screen or not. If I go to resolution, it'll adjust it based on whatever settings I like. I can go as far all the way down to 1920 to 1080 if I like. I can go to 1680, and then the graphical settings, it'll go from medium to high, and then adjust it based on that. Um, so if I go low, there will be no uh, shadows or anything like that because the graphics are kind of fuzzy. But if I go to high, it'll showcase the shadows of the objects. So those are the settings in the windowed mode and how they all work. So I will go ahead and go into the volume control with the audio mixers. Um, so first thing in code, also in my UI manager, I am calling two audio mixers for game audio, and then I'm also calling music audio. So that way I can store those variables. And then down below, I have a set game volume and set music volume. Both of these are going to do the exact same thing. The only difference is one of them is for certain sounds, and the music one is for background music. How these work is through the audio mixer, which Unity already has in game, where it's just a master set volume that uh, if I have a lot of game audio objects, I can use this master game audio to adjust all of the volume for all of the game objects if I'd like, or I can use the music one to adjust all of the background music for every single music in the game. What this allows is for the player to not get, like anytime he goes into a new zone or like gets a new weapon or new sound effects, it's not just blaring in his face and he has to keep readjusting the volume. This is just once and done. It'll adjust every single object that has these audio references in them. You can't do this unless you have an exposed parameter. What these do is it allows the variable within the code that you're calling to match with these audio mixers, and it allows it to adjust based on that through that. And then I also have a music slider here, and then a game slider, allowing the player to adjust the music from a value of 1 to 0. Now I'm doing this is calling it through a click of the set music volume, where if it checks to see if this variable in the master is set, adjust it. So I will go ahead and showcase this in the game for you. Let me just enable music. So if I go ahead and go on game, if I click pause, I can adjust the music. As you can see, the music went all the way down and no music is playing. But if I go back up, it'll start the music again. Same with game. If I go to the game one, here let me just kind of shoot. As you can see, there's some shooting and some sound effects. But if I lower the game volume all the way, now there is no sound. So what these do is it allows the complete game to adjust the audio for however you'd like. So that's volume control. Audio triggered. Have multiple locations where audio is triggered by events in game, shooting, taking damage, shown code where it's explained. So similar case scenario, I have it set to where if the player is shooting the weapon, it will play a shooting sound effect. If the player gets hit, I will also a sound effect will also play. Same with enemy. As you can see, I have an enemy hit thing or on death, player hit. I also have a pickup sound effect, and then I just have the background music as well. So I'm going to go ahead and showcase in game the volume. But first things first, I'm going to adjust the music a bit. But as you can see, like there's a sound effect for the pistol. If I shoot the enemy, or if he hits me, like they get hit. So just collisions and stuff like that. So there's that. How I have these going is through the colliders. So I have an instantiate function on detect to see if it hits the enemy. Instantiate sound object, bullet sound. It gets the position of it and then the rotation. And then in this prefab variable, I can just select it and then put it into the slot of the game object. This just allows for that way only the sound objects will play when you're doing that certain action. And this just allows for a better cleanup instead of having all of these sound objects in the game world clogging up processor time and memory. So it's a nice better way to do it. Background and environmental music. So I have music as well. Pretty much the same thing as sound effects. The only difference is it is background music, and then this will only play that is being called with the let's see, I have point light. That's right, it's only on, I believe, my canvas. It's the quality. Yes, so I have it here set to where if the canvas is in play, do this music. As you can see with the audio source here, I have the music audio output. So that way when I select that slider, it will just adjust it. Same thing with game audio. So the reason why this works as well is similar thing. If by having this be instantiated with the player and only plays when that's in called, this background music is not just constantly playing through the game in the game world, and it's just clogging up memory and space, and it's not just more optimal. Particle effects are instantiated for muzzle, hit, and environmental. So I have a couple of particle effects. I have a blood particle effect to where if the player or the enemy gets hit with the bullet, it will then instantiate that effect. I also have another particle effect here, so that way when the weapon gets shot by the player or the enemy, it will create a muzzle flash particle effect, which I can showcase here in the weapons. So as you can see, I have a little particle system here where every time they shoot the button or shoot the gun, a little particle muzzle flash will appear here through a couple of particles. How I have this set is the duration of how long that particle effect will work, the start time for it, how long it'll last, the speed of it, the colors I have for it, and then I also have the shape of the particle here, which is a cone. I also have a point light system here, so that way when the player also shoots this weapon and instantiate this particle, it will do a little bit of a light effect to kind of instantiate like a muzzle, like a big bright light just appeared through something, just to give it that more of a nicer look. It is the similar concept with the player, um, except it only happens when the player gets collided. So I also have those instantiating, so that way when the enemy or when the trigger goes off, if it did, instantiate the blood effect, which I have in a prefab variable. So those are those particle effects. I also have a campfire as well to illuminate light, where I just have a particle system here happening that'll point upward. And this is just constantly looping because it's a campfire. I want the light to just, or the particle effect to just keep playing in the game. So that's why the looping effect is on. Similar, I have a color over lifetime set here, so that way it'll start at a certain color, and then as it keeps going upward, it'll adjust the color based on whatever I set it to. The external forces here, it's just allowing the objects to continue going. Noise, I have added this just to kind of instantiate maybe a little bit more of a fuzzy effect. And then a similar thing with the point light to where in the middle, so like when the particles are going, it's illuminating the room, initiating, oh, this is a light source because it's bright, it's orange. Obviously, this is light happening. So I'll go ahead and showcase these particle effects in a game. Um, First, I'm going to disable the music so it's not bugging you. So as you can see, when I shoot the gun, a muzzle effect happens. I have a campfire light here with particles. If I get hit, a blood effect shows. Um, if I shoot the shotgun, another particle effect will also appear. So those are those. Lighting reflection exists appropriately. So in the world, I have a few lighting things. As you saw, one of them is a campfire that will illuminate the light in the world. I've placed it here because I want this area especially to be lit up within the game. So that way, as the player is just kind of wandering around, there's a campfire light here. It'll also light him because the light's reflecting, and then it also doing the background. I have a red light source here in the corner. The reason why this is here is it's just kind of to give a different aspect feel in the game. So like kind of each area is their own lighting. Like especially for me within games, I like to have just different effects for lights. Like, oh, this place seems a lot darker, it's spookier. It makes the game more intense for the player. Not only that, like with the red and this color over here with the yellow and orange, it just kind of contrasts together to give a more vibrant feel. Over here, I have two light cubes where my material I put on it is a emissions one where if this material is applied to an object, it will reflect the light and cast it. So these will actually glow in game based on how much light sources are in it. Just adding more light effect to the game. I also have a campfire light here, just in a similar aspect as the one over there. And then I also have I don't know why all these buildings just appeared, a light point group. What this light point group is, it'll adjust the shadows within the game in or kind of in real time setting. So like let's say if the player is in this zone, the light will reflect off of it onto like the wall, or if I'm behind here, the light will reflect off of it to face the character. If I get too closer to a light, the light will appear more on the character. Because what these do is it casts the appropriate light source. So if one area is, let's say, darker, so like this zone's darker, it will adjust the player's light source to make it seem like, oh, he's under shadows. Obviously, this is a more darker area. So showcase it on the game character that he is now a darker color instead of just staying like if he was in the light source, still be bright. Vice versa, if he's in a light source, adjust it to where the character will be brighter and the light source will actually appear on the character as well. So that's lighting. Runs smoothly at 60 FPS. So I do have my profiler up here. What this will showcase is if the game isn't running at 60 FPS, and it does. It runs very smoothly. If I select high quality settings, it will also showcase it running at smoothly 60 FPS. There's no lag. Um, the player can still properly move around. No issues. Stuff like that. So it does run smoothly. I haven't had any performance drops, any issues with lag. It runs smoothly how it should be. So there's that one. Build available. I do actually have a build up. It is on my itch.io account. So if I go ahead and open it up, it is public to where you can just come onto my page and download the zip file and then extract it, and then you can play the game as well. So that is my build available for online. And then well commented, well named code. So in my settings and projectile, or not, UI manager, as you can see, all of my variables have comments saying like what each does. Over each of these functions, it explains what each of these do, what each function does, what the game pause menu does, if unpause game or quit game is up. Scene transitions also has comments as well explaining what it does. The camera controller as well. The uh, launch grenade as well has comments explaining what each of these do. Shotgun weapon also explaining what each of these do. So I have quite a bit of comments explaining um, what each function does and explains exactly how it will work. For if someone were to look at this project and wonder what these do, they can get a pretty good idea, and then if they want to adjust it themselves, they can. Uh, and then I also actually have, I know it doesn't say on here, but I do have a uh, uh, added mechanic that I did for this game. I added in a grenade for the player to kind of throw around and also do damage to the player or to the enemies. So my grenade here I have in the code. Right here I have explode function here, allowing the player to call this and then it'll detonate, doing these certain functions. So I have a collider system here where it'll store all of the colliders in a list, and then it'll check to see if the objects that this function will hit, if they have the colliders, do all of these other functions. If my for each loop says each collider it detects, do this. It'll check to see if there is a rigid body on the objects. If so, add the explosion force, allowing the object to get pushed away from the grenade. It'll also instantiate a grenade sound and also destroy the object, so it's not just sitting there in the game world as like a dud. And then I have the health function here, so that way if the AI is within range of the object, do damage to it. And then I just have the grenade sound, explosion force, the radius of the explosion, and then the delay that the timer will detonate, and then just the AI damage. I have a launch grenade script here allowing the player to press a button, and then it'll spawn that grenade into the game world and then explode. So I have a spawn point on it on my player with the aim position, and then I have the grenade function allowing the grenade to be instantiated. And then in my fixed update here, I have the input.getKeyQ called the launch function. The launch function has a timer of a cooldown, so that way the player is just not constantly pressing Q to spawn grenades. That would probably cause lag within the game. So now I'm just instantiating the prefab of the grenade, spawn it in at the spawn point position that I have in the game, and then get the component of the rigid body for the objects. If so, add the force to it, and then allowing it to go as the distance based on range, so it's 2. And then I just have the cooldown timer. So I will go ahead and showcase this in game. So if I press Q, the grenade will go off. I have a grenade sound. As you can see, I have a grenade timer. I can't press it again, and another grenade will appear unless I press it and wait. So that is the grenade. Presentation portfolio. Publish your build to your portfolio website.